So this Soul Circus thing then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it? What is it that we're doing exactly?
Heaven alone knows.
I mean, is it a performance event? Is it something? Is it where we're trying to get some kind of point across? Are we trying to offer a space for something to happen? Are we giving something away? Are we trying to take something? Are we evangelizing? What are we doing?
Nearly all of those, apart from maybe the evangelising bit. I like the idea of it being a performance. Well, I think you can't get away from that. So it is, inevitably, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's a performance space. I think, and I think there's something about us giving away a little bit of who we are.
Yeah.
So in each one of the Soul Circuses, there hopefully is a little bit of ourselves, inevitably.
Yeah, it has to be. Well, as you say, it inevitably becomes part of us because we're there doing it. We're not following somebody else's script. So it will always contain some of us.
I suppose we agonise slightly, don't we, over, well, I know I do, around, are we different? Do we need to be different? Are there other people doing the same thing as us? Does it matter? Whatever it is that we are doing. So, are we doing the same kind of thing as Icon was a name you've mentioned? But then, as we've said, we're doing something more sacramental than that.
Or at least we're deliberately exploring that theme.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I suppose because we're coming from different ends of the church, so you're coming from a more overtly evangelical. I wasn't going to say anything horrible.
I would have said groovy.
Groove. Oh yeah. Again, that would depend on your perspective, but
yeah. You have to be careful with that E word.
Yeah, I know. All right. Well, whatever. Where would you? Free church? Is that all right?
Yeah. Well, certainly the idea of a free church. I don't think that the reality of a free church is very different from, I think, the idealised position of throwing off the nature of a lot of the weight of religion. I think can be a very positive thing. But the fact that I'm here talking to you means that that's not all I want to find.
No. But you're talking to even to me.
Yes.
Somebody said
even to you.
Even to me. Even though I don't have a black shirt and a collar on today. Yeah. And but I think that there is something kind of actually pretty wonderful in that we're coming seemingly from opposite ends of the spectrum, and yet we're wanting to achieve the same thing, which I think in itself is really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
And certainly the services that I think the cathedral service did seem to cross denominations in its appeal, if denominations is the right word, ideologies, I don't know, whatever, churchmanships. So I think that's quite interesting, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think because I think my search is in finding more depth to worship or to religion or expression, finding more things to anchor to. Otherwise, you're kind of just rocked about by one person's opinion or someone's personality is what tends to draw unaffiliated churches along, and that can be great in some ways, very freeing, but also extraordinarily dangerous in other ways. I want more flavour. I don't see why I need to stick with one form of breakfast cereal. I want to have a fried breakfast from time to time, and as well as maybe some yogurt. Yeah, so that's key. And I think certainly in in our event at the cathedral, we pushed the buttons and we went far enough because it still felt familiar. It still felt comfortable. I think for most people who came along, it was we still ticked all the right boxes, which wasn't really intentional, but that again is us working through and unloading what we bring with us.
But I think there's, you've said yourself that people like Pete Rollins are tearing it apart and tearing it apart again, and there can only be limited value in that. So I think what I would want to do in that is, I think you're right. I think it was a bit too cosy in many respects. Too many people came up to me and sort of said, "Oh, that was lovely," and actually it didn't feel that different. It felt familiar, and I came away from that thinking, next time we'll have to chuck it all out a bit more. So there is something in tearing it apart, but also giving, what structure do we need? What is the minimum kind of form that we need to feel safe to approach God, and to somehow honour the tradition that we've come from? Because I think and this might be where you differ, but I believe that it's only in really understanding our past that we can kind of properly understand who we are today. And that's not to say that we take on and do things exactly as they've always been done, which kind of is exactly what the Orthodox Church would say they do. But I think we need to understand it. I think we need to sort of sift through it a bit.
Yeah.
And decide which bits are still relevant and which bits might not be, but not be too disrespectful.
No, I think that's right. I mean, I think we fall into structures whether we intend to or not. I mean, certainly in the free church, structure abounds all over the place, even though we don't speak of it. And it's not that structure is wrong. I mean, we know as having children that structure can actually be vital, and as children of faith, guidance and boundaries and those sorts of things give us a sense of what we're supposed to be doing. But it's about, rather than having a ritual because it's a ritual, rather than having something because it's there, always been done, we want to understand why that's there, and if it's good, keep it. If it's not good, then question it.
But I think it's really interesting what you say, the analogy you draw with being a parent, because I think in a way that is exactly what we're doing. A good parent will create a safe enough environment for their children to then go out and explore and create their own identity. And although your children might, in some ways, some children might resemble their parents, they're not going to be the same as their parents, and a good parent is not going to force their children to be the same as them. A good parent will just encourage their children to be who they are meant to be. And I think for me that idea of God creating you with that unique spark inside of you that has been given gracefully is incredibly important, and that it's that spark of individuality that I would want to, that I think is essentially part of what I want to do in my ministry, is kind of coaxing that out. So if we're going to create acts of worship, then there's got to be room for people to come as they are, and even though who knows how we'll achieve it, start to develop and grow, but not as a clone somehow.
So it is about allowing people to express themselves. Their insides to come out somehow, because often people feel they need to behave in a certain way when they enter a religious space. There's forms. I remember going to a wedding in Ireland to a Catholic church, first time I'd ever been to a Catholic church, and all these non-Christian friends, but Irish friends, they transformed as they stepped across the threshold. They changed from these sort of interesting, quirky party people into very solemn, very serious people as they crossed the threshold. And it's interesting how religion can do that to people, and how we lose, somehow we leave ourselves at the door.
Absolutely.
And we walk in as something else.
Well, I think there's this kind that there is maybe a relatively modern but not postmodern idea that somehow self is bad, and I don't think there's enough exploration and understanding around the fact that the light of Christ is in each and every one of us.
Yes.
And therefore, you know, there's something unique and wonderful in each person. We're not Catholic. We don't need to feel guilty about who we are. And I would absolutely want to resist that, while at the same time acknowledging that we all have our faults and failings that we need to own and be aware of.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that's been bandied around a lot recently is how some well-meaning words about how church is a hospital for the broken. But what we often actually find is that church is actually a place where people announce themselves better. So, you know, I've now got rid of all my old self, and I'm now this new creation, or this new self, and I'm perfectly good and in church. Which is fine, but what happened to the house of the broken? Why can you not be in church and still be broken? Why can we not bring ourselves to church as we are, and work through these things and be a work in progress, and go forward and go backwards? I don't see why you need to flip from this. I'm broken, I'll get to church, I'm fixed. You know, it doesn't have to be that way, or shouldn't be that way. If we're calling church a house of the broken, then that needs to be a reality, as opposed to just, you know, a neat phrase, I think.
Yeah, definitely. We're very, very bad at, especially in the Church of England, at mainstream kind of Church of England, at sort of being negative about anything. You know, everybody's got to pat each other on the back the whole time and go, oh, that was really good. We're terribly good at that, aren't we? Oh, we're good. Oh, but we're doing all that. We're doing all that, you know. And I don't think, it's not realistic and it's not honest. I don't like it.
No. But that's also a bit British, though, isn't it? It's a bit kind of not wanting to show what's actually beneath the surface. And the one person at church who's always telling you their medical history is the one person you tend to avoid during the. But that's human, perhaps. That's British, perhaps.
So, if you could have Soul Circus kind of achieve one thing for you, though maybe we're not into achieving things in that way, but what would you like, or what would you like to do? Is there anything? Or maybe all that's not the right spirit, but.
Well, I think what I love about it is that it enables me to. It enables me to consider these questions. It enables me to look at these things and then create in response to that. So whether that's creating a bit of music, or filling with some video, or some visuals, or in discourse with you, in talking about how we want to put things together and how we think things should flow, what we want to guide people through. All of those things is what I get out of it, as opposed to seeing an aim or a target or a box to tick necessarily. And hopefully my desire through that is that there are other people out there who think in a similar way, or are open to being prompted into thinking differently, and to looking at these things and seeing how they can create, seeing how they can contribute, seeing what they can bring to this sort of thing. Because we don't want it to be our club, our show, the Suzanne and Robin event. We want it to be a place where people can come and explore. You know.
Definitely.